Hey everyone, Dave here, OSG TTV. I hope everyone's having a great day. We got some talking to do. Let's get to this. Alright, so welcome back to the show. It's another day of the week. It's another episode of Gamestation Go. Good grief. Happy evening to you. I don't know what day it is anymore. My brain is so fried this week. I think it's Thursday. Happy Thursday to you. We are continuing the Gamestation Go saga today. This story has more twists and turns than a Scream movie. Trying to figure out who the killer is at the end of the movie. Every day we got something new to add to this story. It's getting out of control. We gotta just kind of get this wrapped up here. Alright, so my name is Dave. If you haven't been here before, welcome to OSG TTV. And I would turn this video off if I knew how to. Nope, that's not it. Let's try this other button. Hey, there we go. Or who you have to kill. Haha. Yeah, we're not going to kill... Well... After all this is done, you never know. Anyway, if this is your first time here, welcome to the show. We love streaming retro games, and we have an awesome retro mini collection that we stream from all the time. We love virtual pinball, we love arcade, we love current gen systems. We love pretty much anything we can plug in and stream and share with you guys. And this week has been focused on the Atari/MyArcade Gamestation Go, which was released 2 or 3 weeks ago. But since I bought mine through Amazon, I just got mine Sunday. Usually Amazon gets theirs early, but in this case I was the last one, I think, to get one. So reviews all over the internet. Everything's been said that can be said about the Gamestation Go. Or so you think. Basically, everyone out there on YouTube praises it. All of the little YouTube shorts and reels that you see, you know, you watch these things and everyone's like all nostalgic and giddy and happy. And look at this, it's got all the cute little controls on the side, and it's got this game and it's got that game. And oh, I remember playing this one as a kid. And reviews are really good for it out there. I haven't seen a lot of bad reviews. I think I watched one guy who was questioning some things about it, and I gotta say I was actually more interested in that to see what the issues are. So instead of going and starting and talking about just all the good things about the system, which there are a lot, I'm going the other way, and we are over analyzing this thing and trying to pick it apart and trying to see what it's worth, if it's really worth the $179 price tag or not. We put a little system together to help us through this. We took dollars off if we found issues, whether it's with hardware or games or controls or configuration or, you know, just anything. And we're going to share the list with you. We've got the list compiled. I know we talked a long time on the first stream, and I don't know if we really wrapped it up and summarized with a list at the end, but that's what we're going to start out with here tonight. We're going to start out with a list. Good Grief says we are already down to 150 or even 125. Do you have a camera? Are you spying on me in my house? How do you know what's going on? Anyway, so we're going to list the problems. We're going to tell you what it's worth, and then we're going to tell you another chapter of this story, which it gets a little more interesting even after this. So, all right, so here we go. Let's go through the list. I don't really have the list typed up on the screen, so we're just going to have to kind of watch. Let's go over to this screen for right now. What is it worth? Is it worth $179? I don't know. So here's a list of the issues we came upon. We have a rating system. We're not going to get into the whole rating system and what issues cost what amount of money, but we're just going to kind of read off the issues because it's going to kind of come into play later. And know what? What is no? What, you want to know the dollar amounts that I'm taking off? Is that what you want? You want the dollars? Or do you not want me to tell you what this is really worth? That's like a Darth Vader no. You said it was worth 179 and I said no. Oh, okay. Alright, so GameStation Go. Awesome marketing. Everything looks great. All the reviewers are praising it. Dave at my house boots it up, and this is what we find. Here's my list of issues. We got about 20 of them to read off. 20, 2-0. And here we go. Number one, and this is like probably my biggest gripe with the system, is the trackball. I'm looking forward to these special devices for input more than anything. The paddle, the trackball, these are the things that make the system. If this handheld didn't have those, I would never have bought it. I'm telling you that right now, MyArcade, if you're listening. And I'm gonna look in the camera right now. MyArcade, if you did not have these controls on the handheld, I would never have bought this. Because we have 1,000 ways to play Atari games now. It's getting to the point where this, number one, this light is so bright in my face right now, I can hardly see. But I really don't need another system to play Atari games. Holy heck. And I hope we don't get any more in the future unless I don't even know what you could do to sell me another Atari system. But let's go back to this screen because the light is not so bright. Number one, my number one issue is this trackball is too oversensitive. I love trackball games. I love Missile Command. I love Centipede. I love Missile Command Recharged. I love whatever games you got on here that use the trackball. And this trackball is too sensitive. All you got to do is like breathe, and the pulse that goes through your thumb causes the cursor to like jump around. This thing needs to be like deadened by like 30% sensitivity. Please, for the love of all that is holy, MyArcade, please do this for me and others. We were talking about this the other day. I don't want to have to quote unquote get used to how it works just to use it. It doesn't feel natural. It feels too fast. It's going to cause problems. It's turning me off. I don't want to use it. Or give us a sensitivity adjustment. So anyway, that's issue number one. We knocked off $10 for that because that, in my mind, is big time. Good Grief says, I'm 100% with you on the main selling point isn't on point, and the biggest part of all is you can't adjust the sensitivity. Yes! MyArcade, please hear me on that. Okay, let's keep going here, or else we're going to be here all night. The widescreen LCD that's in this thing, awesome for pinball games, awesome for recharged games, all your other emulated games like Atari 2600 and things that have like a 4:3 picture. We're not really getting a true 4:3 ratio. It's still stretched a tad more than it needs to be. Not a big detail, but a detail nonetheless. We knocked off $2 for that. This next one is kind of another deal breaker. This is almost, okay, let's go back to this. This is almost as big as the trackball, but just a little bit under. Atari 5200. MyArcade. Do you see this number pad here that's on the side? This is a number pad that's really cool, and it's a really cool feature, especially if you have 5200 games to play. And this system, and I didn't even mark it down for this, this system only has like 8 5200 games on it, and none of the other games use the number pad. But since you can sideload 5200 games on here, you can have a larger library, which is awesome. But MyArcade, do you know what? You have an emulation glitch in your software that if you're playing a game like Centipede and you die on the screen and you get to a point where and I kind of figured out the trick to this, is if you have a part of the software or the programming that stops looking for input direction, like say Centipede, you die, all the mushrooms in the sky start counting up your extra points. If at that point you're rotating the D-pad and you have something pressed down on the D-pad, your next life comes up and you can't move it with the D-pad until you die again. The trick that I found is that you have to die and you have to release the controls and not be pushing the D-pad. And if you do that, you have full control of your man or whatever on your next life. But if you're pushing the D-pad in the part of the game where it's not reading joystick or directional input, it screws up, and it screws up on all your 5200 games. And I even tried it on the side loading emulator, and it does it there as well. So in my mind, the 5200 games are almost useless unless you are always thinking about this trick in your head and focus in on that, and it ruins the gameplay having to do that. So look at that. Please fix it. That. Oh my gosh, I'm so flustered I can't even. All right, so that's like my number 2 gripe is 5200 emulation. It's really good when it's working, but when it's not, it sucks. And I'm giving you a break on this one. I only took $2 off for this because it's a control issue. In my mind, I almost want to take more off, like $5 or $10, because it kind of crushes the whole 5200 library. But $2 we took off for that, so you got away with a little something there. The hardware screen, this is going to be a quick one. Good grief, most people probably went from 2600 to the 7800 because I think the 5600 or 5200 came out in 82 and 7800 in 86, so it was only out for 4 years before we saw the new system come out. Yes, totally agree with you. The other big reason that 5200 isn't that popular is because the controls actually really, I'm saying this wrong, the controls really suck on the 5200. They got the joystick on this controller. It's like a hybrid. It's like got the number pad like a ColecoVision, but the joystick that's coming out of it is an analog stick, and the analog stick sucks. And you watch any 5200 review out there on the internet, it sucks. That being said, the emulator that they used on here, when it's working, it actually works really good. I played some Pac-Man and other things in the side-loaded games, and it actually controls better than a lot of other emulators I've used on the PC. But they gotta fix the dead controller issue on there. All right, let's keep going. Hardware screen is plastic instead of glass. You know, if you get a nice Nintendo Switch for $200 or $300, your LCD screen is covered with a nice glass type material. This one's kind of plasticky. I used a microfiber cloth on it a couple times and it still looks to be in good condition. but I worry about it. I worry that it's going to scratch really easy. Who knows? I could be wrong. But we took $1 off for that. Only $1. All right, this is a big one. Paddle controls. Using the paddle controls here in arcade games. So, for example, if you are playing Warlords and you're using this for your control, I mean, it's great that the paddle works for Warlords. It's not that. It's that the sensitivity, get this, is too slow. Your paddle sensitivity in your arcade games is too slow. In Warlords, you should be able to catch the fireball. You should be able to turn your dial really fast to the side and fire upon your opponent's castles. And the paddle moves so slow you can't do this. This should be a basic part of the game. Almost makes Warlords unplayable. So we're going to take $3 off for this, just for the fact that you can't change the paddle control sensitivity in the arcade games. Exactly, good grief, right? It almost makes you not want to play the game, because if you can't play the game like it's supposed to be played and use basic strategies, it's kind of useless. All right, on to another one. Some of these are going to be nitpicky things, and they're just going to take off $1 or $2, but it's like quality items that I found. World Rally, which is in the Pico arcade section, has the wrong controls to it. Their picture of the arcade game clearly, and why is this so bright? We got to fix this. It clearly shows a steering wheel on the arcade game, and yet the controls are the D-pad, and that kind of bugs me, because why do you not have the controls set to the dial? That's what you got it on the system for. It's an emulator thing, it's an arcade thing, so you're probably using MAME running it. You obviously did it in Warlords and Breakout, Super Breakout. Why did you not activate it for World Rally? How could they have overlooked something like that? Did they do zero testing? I don't know. If I were working for a company and I were putting out a product like this, you know, it's kind of to the point where, are you just pushing stuff out quantity over quality, and you don't even know how these games work, or really care as soon as long as you've got your main 20 games in there working good, which this thing didn't. You know, get some quality testers in there that have played arcade games their whole life and know their arcade games. I mean, like I said, it's not that you don't have the ability to do this. It's probably emulated in MAME. You have paddle control working for other things in MAME. All of your racing games that have a steering wheel should do this. And there's no excuse, because you have not even just a paddle, but you have a wheel that goes all the way around in your paddle now. You redesigned that like 6 months ago. You made it 360 degree spinning. There's no reason not to have that. This is taking a lot longer than I thought it would. Okay, here's a big one. And I gave you guys mercy on this one too. Remember how I said your top 20 games should be working good? Let's talk about Tempest. Tempest, you have the controls working great on it with the dial, and it feels good. You know, it could move a little faster, you know, kind of like the Warlords thing, but it feels good on Tempest. But you got the resolution stretched across the screen, and Tempest is a vertical game. You know, rectangle, vertical, not rectangle, horizontal. It's one of your premier games on this handheld, and that was jacked up. So we only took $1 off of that because for resolution issues, I only took $1 off for some reason. This one irks me a lot more, but we only took $1 off of this. So Tempest plays great. Graphics are glitchy with the vector graphics kind of being stretched and mutated the way they are. But the game is still playable. $1 off for that. Recharged games. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got 5 recharged games on here. I think the reason I dinged those all is because there's no. I probably should have dinged them more, but there's no instructions for these things. There's like all your other games, you can hit the Y button and get like on-screen instructions or information. None of these games have that. Plus, you don't have sensitivity controls once again for the paddles and the spinners or the trackball, and you don't have the online leaderboards working. You've got Wi-Fi on this thing, and I hope, I keep saying that I hope you guys are going to do something more with the Wi-Fi than to just have it for firmware updates. Please do something else with the Wi-Fi. I don't know if it's possible or not. Maybe it's not possible in the design of the product, but that could have saved us a few bucks if you would not have included Wi-Fi in it if it's just for firmware updates. So there's a lot going on with the recharge games. There's even more with it, but we're going to come back to that in a little bit. So for now, we just took $1 off for each game. So Asteroids, Berserk, Breakout, Centipede, Missile Command, $1 for each of those we took off. Now we're getting into some bigger things again. So on stream number 2, we hooked up an HDMI cable. Not sure how many people watched that video, but we took about 30 minutes or so, and we hooked up the HDMI cable and we outputted it to the big 75-inch TV here and played all the different series of games. Balls of Steel and the recharged games specifically are so the hardware is underpowered for these things. It's either that you're outputting too much resolution to kill your hardware, or the hardware just isn't there, or you have it set to 1080 where maybe you should have set it to like 720p output if that's a possibility. Good Grief says, I think it would have been awesome if they would have made it kind of like the Switch where the controllers can pull off, but then you can turn the screen to vertical for games like Tempest, and the controls with magnetized to the sides of how the vertical side. It would be cool to do that. It would be more costly to do that, obviously, and then I think the quality of their controls that they have in here, they actually feel really decent. If you would have had to split them into multiple controllers or controllers that pull off, I feel like the quality might have been lessened than for those, maybe. It's a kind of, cut costs or something like that. I think it's a good idea, because that brings up a good point, which I didn't even really hit on, is the multiplayer aspect of this. Anyway, HDMI. If you watch the video, Missile Command on HDMI is horrendous. It's horrendous. It'll never be played again unless you put out some kind of firmware patch or something, or change the resolution. The trackball, you just touch it and your crosshair jumps all over the screen. And it's like this in other people's reviews that I've watched too. It's not just mine. It's not faulty hardware. It's a configuration thing. I think the frame rate is getting hammered, and that's why you see the jumps in your crosshairs, your mouse control all over the screen. I just don't think this thing can handle the output. It works good on the little screen, but once you're pumping 1080 out, I don't know what the resolution of the little screen is. It's not 1080. It's not 720. But most retro games outputted on systems are 720p for HD. And if they didn't do that, they should have outputted at 720 just to make the hardware more responsive. Same thing with the balls of steel. You play pinball and the frame rate is so bad, the balls jump in all over the place. When you play pinball on a screen, like even when you play it on the little handheld screen, when you play it on the little handheld screen, the frame rate is good. I mean, it's playable on here. It plays like it should. You put it out to HDMI output and you're getting like, it feels like 19 frames a second. And it's not playable. So pinball will never be played unless something changes on HDMI. We took off $10 for each of those. I mean, that was a big hit. That was as big hit as the trackball thing. Because if the HDMI isn't working, you shouldn't have had it on there. Yeah, it's kind of fun to output the old Atari 2600 games and stuff, but anything can run Atari 2600 games nowadays and the other emulators. So those should never even be a problem or an issue. But maybe you shouldn't have had balls of steel or recharged be able to output to HDMI. I mean, people would feel gypped that way, but to have it unplayable, that's not a good look. I think that almost hurts you more. I don't know. So another thing I'm concerned about, and I talked about this in the video, in December, MyArcade is rolling out some very cool looking joystick editions for this thing. One of them is a 8-button arcade stick controller, complete with spinner on it, complete with a trackball on it, and it looks really cool. They're also putting out a more of a Nintendo-esque gamepad size controller, which has the features too. It has the D-pad, it has the trackball, it has the spinner. If you're looking for people to play 2-player games, what are you looking to have them play? Because you're probably going to, number one, have them output your system to HDMI to play together, right? Instead of on the little screen. And they're not going to be playing Balls of Steel. They're not going to be playing recharge games. So they're kind of limiting themselves now to old Atari 2600 games and games of that age. And as far as these nice controllers you guys are putting out, I'm not going to want to play 2600 games on some big $80 arcade control panel. I would rather play Atari games on an Atari 2600 stick or like your GameStation Pro stick that you got. And I know you can plug that in and use it, which is nice. So I don't know. I'm wondering what the marketing strategy is with those controllers and this unit. I know those controllers can be used with other devices too coming out. I know you have like a countertop arcade coming out, and I know you have maybe one other device coming out, and I'm sure they'll work with everything, right? But if you're planning some kind of huge compatibility with this system, I don't know. Sounds like those controllers are coming out. December will fall flat on their face because everyone will bury these units in their backyard. Bury these units in their backyard before then. Maybe. So yeah, So we're talking about a lot. We found a lot of things the last few days, and like I said, the story gets better once we get past all this. We're almost to the end here. Tempest. Why do I have this on here again? Tempest. Drag race, once again, no steering wheel, no paddle controls. I mean, it has a steering wheel in the arcade, no paddle controls. Pac-Man. Okay, here's the last two on my list here. Pac-Man is a big licensing part of this unit. You've got it on the front of the box. You advertise its own slot in the menu system for your categories of games. You got a whole Pac-Man category with 3 games in there. Number 1, the Atari 2600 Pac-Man. You have it squished into a vertical aspect ratio. Makes me not want to play it. There is no Pac-Man in the Atari 2600 section, so you can't even flip over to the Atari 2600 section to play Pac-Man. Right there on the video that you're looking at, it just showed it, and it actually showed it in the trailer in a squished vertical screen format, and I can't even believe it made the trailer like that. Can I rewind that? Let's see if I can rewind that. Where is it? Here we go. I think Pac-Man's coming up here. So look, in their trailer, here's a 2600 Pac-Man. They got it squished. Oh, how was battery life performance on extensive gameplay? The battery life is really good. So they're advertising 4 to 5 hours for it, which I think it would get 4 to 5 hours on it. My only gripe is the charging of that battery. The charging of the battery takes a long time. It's not a quick charger, so if you drained your... Let's say I've drained a quarter of the battery from full. You know, in your mind you would think, well, that's one of your 4 hours, right? It should take 30 to 40 minutes at most maybe to charge that back, right? It shouldn't be like a 1-to-1 charge of it. But I've had the unit plugged in for over an hour 20 minutes, hour 30 minutes, and it didn't charge that quarter of the battery drain. So it's definitely not any kind of speed charge, which I don't really mind because I'm not playing it that much where I need to constantly have it going. I just expected it to charge faster. So I didn't knock it for that because, you know, if I'm playing this thing for 4 hours, I'm fine with plugging it in for a long time and letting it charge overnight or whatever. I'm not gonna keep going on it. It's not like I would be streaming it for like 4 days on end. Oh, that's right, I have been. But no, battery life is good. Charging is slow, but that's okay. Back to Pac-Man. So we were talking about the Atari 2600 Pac-Man. So that one's squished, and then you switch over to the Pac-Man arcade game that's included with this, and it's some kind of hybrid Pac-Man. It's not the actual Pac-Man ROM from the arcade. You can tell just in the subtle gameplay, in the sound from it, you can tell it's not the Pac-Man arcade ROM. I've played enough of it to know it's not. So I don't know what that version of Pac-Man is, but it's not. It looks very close. It looks convincingly close. But to the trained Pac-Man eye and ear, it's not. So altogether, the Pac-Man stuff, we took about $7 off of that. The arcade game, being a false Pac-Man, we took $5 off for that. The Pac-Man Atari 2600, we took $2 off for that, just because you know, these are flagship licensed things you put on the system to get people to buy it. Right on the front of the box, big Pac-Man logo, and it failed like right out of the box. So So there we go. That's my list of gripes. There's probably a few more minor ones that I forgot to talk about, but I'm going to lose my voice if I keep talking. So let's go back to this screen. What is the system worth? So US dollars is 179. That's what I paid for it. Overseas and international, it might even be a little higher in the conversion rates. I don't know. And for what it's worth, this is release. This is release firmware. This is 1.0. This is what it shipped with. When I got it out of the box, I went and checked for new firmware, and it said I'm on the latest and greatest. So that's what it shipped out with. There's also, I didn't even talk about any of this, and I probably should have, but we did a real quick video of the side loading of games. The biggest problem with the side loading of games is the button configuration. So if you have a emulator that has like a 2-button setup, like the Atari Lynx, for example, or an NES, you kind of want the 2 buttons close together to be your 2 primary buttons, like A and B or A and X. You know, those are kind of your standard default buttons. For some reason, when you sideload games into the emulators, you can't adjust the buttons unless you're using a MyArcade game. Those you can actually go in and customize, which is nice. But all the other smaller Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, blah, 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 you can't switch the buttons at all. And it defaults you to the A button and the Y button as your 2 buttons. And you just want to... You just kind of want to do one of these. Because obviously they use some of these emulators in their games that they've included, and in those games they play correctly and the buttons are right next to each other, you know, like the A and B buttons, the A and X buttons, and they play like they're supposed to. But then you go into the side loading of the emulators and it's not. So some of us can look at the side loading as a nice bonus feature that I should just be glad for that they included it. Ever since the GameStation Pro, though, they've been throwing this on their systems, and it's kind of expected now. And a lot of people would not buy this system, the more techie people would not buy this system if you weren't able to sideload games on it. And I know that for a fact because I've talked to people that have said that. So there's some expectations that it's going to be there. If there's expectations that it's going to be there, make it usable for the users and make them happy. I can't figure out why, you know, number one, why it's not customizable, and even two, if you didn't want to make it customizable, why not at least make it customized enough that it's usable and it's comfortable to use. So that's my gripe with the side loading. I didn't take any numbers off of here for the side loading. I probably should have, but once again, we're going to let that one go. And we are going to talk about the final number we came down to. So, was it worth $179? I'm going to say no. Because when I unbox this thing, you know, if we're talking $179, that is assuming everything works across the board, the way it's intended, and the way it's supposed to be, not shipped incomplete like video games of today, where we'll rely on firmware updates or something to fix that later. I would probably recommend to have held this off another few months to correct a lot of those issues. I think MyArcade should be enjoying the fact that there's a lot of reviews out there that are praising this and not tearing it apart like what we've done. And I do want to say on the flip side, there are a lot of awesome features about this device. I don't want it to seem like I'm just going all negative Nancy on this thing. I'm just kind of looking for flaws out of the box that I was hoping wouldn't be there. This game definitely does have its place on our shelves. I'm glad I have it. I'm glad I bought it. Is it worth $179? No. I would say the final price of what I would have kind of been more comfortable with, and this is a max price. This is like top of the chart. Is I could have seen paying 120 of this on the high end. When this was supposed to be released originally, it was supposed to be around 149. I'm guessing with tariffs and stuff, it got jacked up another $20 or $30 to 179. But I could see this being a $99 product, maybe up to like 119. And once again, I'm saying as it's released, out of the box, the way we have it right now. I'm not familiar enough with emulation handhelds. I'm not really big on the handheld side of things. I do have a Nintendo Switch. I do have a Nintendo 3DS. I don't have a lot of these emulation systems that you can get, either preloaded with tons of games or kind of add your own games to them. So I don't know price range, what to expect. I would kind of think for $80 to $100 you would get a pretty decent machine. Now, that being said, trackball is on here, spinner is on here. The only thing that's really useful though is the spinner, I think, when it comes to Atari 2600 games and some arcade games. It feels really good. The trackball, as much as I love trackballs and I love trackball games, it hurts me to use it on this system. And you can get used to it, but your games are not going to be as good as they would be with like a full-size trackball or anything like that with the sensitivity that they have on here. Here's my thought on the sensitivity, just because I'm talking so much on here. If you're on a full-size trackball and you have your sensitivity set to these arcade games in your emulator to, let's say, 80%, you know, and then you take all of your programming and you go down to a little miniature size like this, but you still leave your trackball at 80%, I think that's going to be way too oversensitive, because your big thumb is moving this little itty bitty trackball, and I think you're just getting too much motion out of it. So, and this is just a theory in my head, but when you take something that big and then shrink it down, you also have to adjust the percentage of the trackball. I don't know. Like I said, maybe a theory. Maybe not. That was a lot. That was a lot to get out. Like I said, I'm still happy I have it. I wish I could output everything to my screen. I would like to stream this stuff. I would like to stream Recharged. I would like to stream Balls of Steel. I don't know. There's a lot of cool things about this, and there's just a lot of things out of the box. I'm just surprised didn't make it past quality control. MyArcade, if you need a quality control dude, please contact me. Because I would be happy to help out. I'd be happy to test things out and give you some real feedback. I think what who this product is for at this point is for the casual Atari gamer who hasn't had a new system in 10 years and wouldn't know the difference. For someone that collects Atari products and knows the different types of controls and has been using them their whole life and they know what to expect when using them, and we'll call that the hardcore Atari enthusiast, I don't think this product is for them. I think this is more for the casual game player. It's a pretty high price tag for the casual game player though. So that's where I've got a little disconnect going, especially if there's going to be those high-end arcade controllers and sticks and pads coming out in the future. I'm just kind of wondering what the plan is for that. You know, how does that all work? Anyway, we're going to wrap that one up with a bow. We're not going to stop the stream because we got more to talk about. But we're going to wrap up this story of Gamestation Go Firmware 1.0 out of the box. Down the road, I'm hoping there's a lot of firmware updates to this thing, because that will give a chance to hopefully correct a lot of these issues. So let me tell you a little story here. This is a story about Dave spending hours and hours going through the Atari Gamestation Go and testing all kinds of games and controls, and being sad that I can't use the number pad for anything because the 5200 games aren't working. And then after I post my first video or two, you'll never guess what happens. Dave flips on YouTube and sees a new video that's out there. And guess what he sees? That's right, hours after I go through my reviews and spend a lot of time doing this stuff, later that same day, Firmware 1.1 is talked about on YouTube. I mean, you can't make this crap up. Firmware 1.1 is out there. And I have it on the machine right now. I did a recording this morning that I have not published yet about the firmware upgrade process, and I talked a little bit about the side loading of games in 1.0 as kind of a final thought to my product testing. But after we were done filming that, we went ahead and filmed upgrade to firmware 1.1. So does anyone out there want to see what firmware 1.1 does? I do, Dave. I want to see what firmware 1.1 does. Well, you've come to the right place. Absolutely. So we're going to get rid of this. We're going to get rid of this. We're just going to keep our $120 on the screen, and guess what we're going to do? We are going to see what issues are fixed. Whoops. We're going to see what issues are fixed and increase the price. We'll jack the price back up accordingly. I mean, I'm still sticking with the $120 as an out-of-the-box price of what I think it's really worth. But if this firmware 1.1 is redeeming in any ways, we'll give it a benefit of a doubt and we'll adjust the price a little bit and we'll go up. So let's do it. Let's have some fun with the Gamestation Go. After we talk about firmware 1.1 and what this does, we're going to go back and we are going to, our next video on this unit is going to be all of the good things we really enjoy about this. And there are a lot of good things we enjoy about the GameStation Go. Like I said, I don't want to sound horribly negative about it, but it just, out of the box, it wasn't worth what they're looking for. Alright, so I got my SD card in here. We're going to do just boot off of local storage. And here we are. Let's do some... I'm going to switch microphones here. All right, so here we go. We got firmware 1.1. You can tell right off the bat when you boot this up, you don't have a flat red screen in the background. It's a gradient going on. And also when you scroll through the menu, it doesn't have that laggy screen wipe effect. It just goes automatically to your games. Or to the different sections, I should say. So that's an easy way to tell right off the bat which firmware version you're on. This is much better, more clean. Like I said, the scrolling of the screen between colors and game systems just made it look like underpowered hardware because it kind of lagged across the screen as you moved. So. Alright, we're going to start right here with some of the heavy hitters. Let's start with some Pac-Man. Alright, so the two big issues we had on Pac-Man were the 2600's aspect ratio and the classic mode not being the actual arcade game. Alright, as you can tell, they fixed the Atari 2600 Pac-Man. It is running off the correct aspect ratio now. It's not a vertically challenged game. So that's one fix they got out of our list of fixes. Let's go to classic Pac-Man arcade. First thing you notice is the screen is a little more vertical. Not as, I mean, it wasn't really stretched in the last version, but this one is more squished together, more horizontal like it should be. This is Pac-Man, folks. This is... So they changed the Pac-Man ROM. And I heard about this on YouTube, that they actually changed the game on the system and put the correct one on. I guess some of the units at shipping time had the correct Pac-Man on and some didn't, from what I heard. I don't know how true that is. But that is corrected in this firmware update. Alright, so two of our issues are fixed here. Right off the bat, let's go to Atari Recharged. Let's play with the trackball a little bit here.
I just was floored as soon as I heard there's a firmware update out for 1.1, like literally hours after I got done reviewing everything. Yep, trackball is still very sensitive. I haven't tried HDMI either on this yet, so I don't know if on HDMI if it, on HDMI if it were this smooth, even though it's still moving really fast, and I'm just kind of learning how to work around it right now. This is what HDMI looks like when you're playing it on like HDMI. It's like this. It's like crazy stupid. Okay, so that's not fixed. That's still, trackball is an issue. And we're not going to try everything. We're just going for the big hitters that we have found were broken before. Another big one was, and I forgot to include this on my review just a few minutes ago, but Indy 500. This is the game that uses a modified paddle controller that on the Atari 2600 it spins freely all the way around without stopping. And this game was only playable by the D-pad before. And I apologize for the brightness here. We'll change the screen setting in just a second here, but alright, so the D-pad still does its thing. But look, the spinner knob is highlighted now. Look at that. They actually got this working. That is the Indy 500 I know and love here. Alright, let's go to the settings and see if we can't dim the screen down a little bit here. I don't know if they have anything new. Here's our software update. Here's our version that we're on and my serial number if you need that for some reason. Alright, let's do some more Atari stuff here. The next big thing was the arcade version of Tempest. Alright, that's much more smaller, compact looking. I think they might have actually fixed this here. It used to be stretched out to almost the sides of the screen. Once again, Tempest is a vertical screen arcade game. So yeah, it looks like they got this one fixed too. So far their track record is pretty good so far on firmware 1.1. Let's go for Warlords. This is where we had the spinner dial that was not as responsive as we would like. I'm trying to spin it really fast to get to the edge of the screen and it's just not. So I should be able to like spin it to the left from here, and I hit that green guy. Oh yeah, when I spin it, it just like, it doesn't move. You should be able to. So another thing I noticed in here is for the arcade games, you don't have the ability to adjust the spinner sensitivity, which is also another bummer because I know in MAME you can, and you can very easily. So considering they're probably using MAME for this, it's too bad that they don't have an option to adjust, you know. All right, I'm just kind of on the side here digging up my list of items. Let's go back to the recharged games. Aha! They do have the Y button active now. And they have controls listed on here, gameplay information. Variations, co-op. So they added this stuff back in, which is good. Because I think I knocked it like $1 per game. The trackball obviously is not there yet, but as far as trackball sensitivity. Balls of Steel I really had no issues with on this little screen. Balls of Steel had an issue on the HDMI, which maybe we can test that out in a few minutes. I don't know. Jellicoe, Pico. Here's that World Rally game that has the steering wheel on the arcade machine. Alright, so still no wheel on there. Oh, let's try the 5200 games that were unplayable before, or had control issues. Let's see if that is fixed. So what I need to do is I need to die here and start rotating the pad. Oh, yep, controls are dead now. So that issue still remains. So if I die again and I don't touch the controls, I find that the control will return. So that's too bad. 5200 games are still broken, however you want to say that. Alright, so a lot of the big hitters were hit. The Pac-Man ones were fixed. Tempest was fixed. Let's go. We also noticed some of those other um, vector games were kind of off, right? So let's say Black Widow. Tempest looked really good. Oh, Black Widow looks a lot better now. They must have changed something with the resolution or the vector graphics output. But this is nice. It's bright, it's colorful. It's a lot better than it was 2 days ago when we were playing this. The spider web is complete. There's no break in the graphics, the vector graphics. So yeah, firmware 1.1 is coming through here for this. So that's good. What else did we have for vector graphics games? Drag Race was one of those games where it has steering wheels in the arcade game, but I don't think here it's going to give us. This game actually works now. It wasn't working before. You couldn't drive the car. It's like auto shifting or something. But yeah, no steering wheel control. Game is better though. It actually runs this time. How about Asteroids? Asteroids and Asteroids Deluxe was a little, those are nice vector games, but they were a little spotty, but pretty good in the old version. Let's see if I can notice a difference. Yeah, a little. Pretty much the same as they were before. Paddle controls still do not have any adjustment in the arcade games because we tried that with Warlords. Alright, so let's reboot this quick. I think we kind of tested the major things with the pack-in stuff. Let's go over to the side loading section here. Alright, let's just try out a 2600 paddle game and make sure those still work. I only got 2 or 3 games on here right now. Kaboom is actually obviously the go-to game here, right? So this game, playing it on the little screen, runs at a very decent frame rate. When I played this on HDMI, it was almost unplayable. There was something with the output to the TV that was just causing a lot of lag. And we'll have to try that again when we hook the HDMI cable up to this thing. Yep, paddle games are working great. Let's go down to the Lynx games here. And I'm trying to think of a game that uses 2 buttons, because I don't know these games all too well. Let's use Battlezone. I know that each button fires a different weapon. It's a little bit of a different take than the Battlezone that we played in the arcade. So the old one uses the A and Y button to fire. I'm hoping it's like A and B or A and X. I think it still might be here's the A button. Yep, here's a Y button. So it's still A and Y in the emulators, which is too bad. And I also did hear, like I was doing a little bit of research from work today, and I did hear that some of the emulators were actually pulled out of the system, like the Dreamcast, the Nintendo 64, and the PS1 games no longer work. They took that out of the system. To me, that's fine. I've got enough other ways to play those games, but I know a couple of people online were kind of mad about like the PlayStation 1 library not working anymore, where that actually was working in firmware 1.0. So these are not the only systems in here you can emulate. These are just some quick ones I threw on here to do some quick testing the other day. You can also do like in television, and I know that had some control issues. Maybe that's fixed now. I don't know. A bunch of Game Boy Color, NES, Genesis, 32X, Sega CD, I believe are other ones on here. Um, yeah, so basically what it comes down to is like the button config. So I was trying out Super Nintendo, and yeah, the buttons were off. You know, I was playing like Super Mario World for a couple minutes, and the wrong buttons were active on here. So I don't know if that's fixed in here or not. We'll try that later, but it seems like side loading is pretty much the same as how it was before, minus a few emulators. And the people online were complaining. They're like, well, I'm not going to update to firmware 1.1 because I want to keep the PlayStation compatibility. And, you know, I don't know if it's worth it, because did you really buy this thing to play your PlayStation games? I don't know. I guess to some people that might be an important thing, right? All right, so here's the thing. We tested a lot. The only thing we haven't tested is HDMI output. I'm willing to test that out, but I don't want to hook it up to the stream. I can try pointing the webcam to my TV if you would like to see that. That would only take like a few seconds to do. One moment, please.
All right, and I'm going to switch back to my headset mic for this. Um, let's see how this looks here. Oh, this might actually work out. This might work out okay, actually, here. I'm probably going to turn the screen brightness down a little bit on the TV. Seems to be better for streaming when I do that. Oops. Wrong options. Yeah, I guess it's probably pays to do this and get all of the testing out of the way real quick, since these are all the major issues we've found in the past. All right, hopefully that looks okay. We'll find out as we plug this in. So let's turn this off. Let's get this, here we go. Seems to be loading up here. So we are testing the GameStation Go's HDMI output currently. It does not display to both the internal screen and the TV at the same time. It's like a one or the other. Once you have the HDMI cable plugged in. So we're going to focus on two different things here. We're going to focus on Balls of Steel and Atari Recharged. Let's go Atari Recharged first, because I have a feeling I know this isn't going to be much better. Maybe I'll be pleasantly surprised. I don't know. All right, let's do Missile Command. This is the one that I wish would work a little more than anything, but yeah, actually that TV does look kind of good in the picture there. Kind of surprised on how well that looks. All right, here we go. Let's press A to play. Recharge. Let's do it. Oh yeah, this is horrible. Oh shit. This is uh okay, so we're gonna do some measurements. I did this in the past. If I move this all the way to the left side of the screen and I put my thumb on the left side of the ball and move it to the right side of the screen, it made the whole travel to the right side of the screen in almost a half turn of the ball. That's how insanely sensitive it is. So to go across the screen halfway is what I'm saying, is you have to turn the ball 1/4 turn to go halfway across the screen. So if I completely play this like I wouldn't play it, you can see I can kind of control this. They need to change the sensitivity at least down 50%, at least. So this is, oh, this is just horrible. They got to fix this. The frame rate is okay. It stutters a little bit. You can tell in the missiles coming down, they move smooth. They kind of move smooth, but you can still see there's some kind of frame rate drop there. And I apologize. I gotta run over to the screen to read your comment there. Oh my God, there's no way. Yeah, this is unplayable. If they expect people, you can't even adjust to this. You can adjust to it on the small screen, but it's completely useless. Here, let's go back to Balls of Steel, and I think we know what we're in for here, but I've got a virtual pinball cabinet. I've owned pinball programs on my computers in the past, I know what to expect when it comes to a pinball game. Even if it's not 60 frames a second. I mean, this part looks okay because it's scrolling really slow, but let's hit the start button. You tell me if you can track that ball on the screen. We got the stream going, you know, could be 30 frames a second, could be 60. I don't know what the stream is going at, but I can't see that ball moving around. Like when the screen is moving up and down and the ball is hauling ass, it just drained, and I didn't even see it drain down the bottom of the screen. So completely unplayable. I mean, this is, like I said, it works good on the small screen, but translated to a 1080 picture, whether this is really 1080 or not, if it's 1080, they should take it down to 720 at least, maybe for a chance to work. But yeah, this is completely unplayable. It's fun for literally like 3 seconds. You can't even watch your ball move up and down the screen. And it's not just one table, obviously. They all kind of work the same. I'll let that one load up here. I cannot track the ball. Yeah. Yeah, I'm here on my TV and I can't track the ball. I mean, I'm literally sitting like 5 feet from the 6 feet from the screen. And especially when you're playing a pinball game that the screen scrolls up and down. I mean, that's hard enough on its own. You gotta be able to track that ball. Look at that, the ball magically ended up on my flippers. Huh, now it's gone and I didn't even see it go down. So obviously nothing got fixed there with the firmware. I'm trying to think if I had any other issues. Let's just try one or two of these other ones here. Let's try Pac-Man Classic. I mean, that should work fine. Yep, aspect ratio looks good now. Music is great. It still has a little bit of a frame skip in here. I've played enough Pac-Man to know what to expect.
And since my headset just died, we'll flip back over to the webcam here. All right, so that's gonna do it. I want to switch back over. So that's firmware 1.1. So it fixes a lot of the major issues with the retro games. So you have the Pac-Man stuff is fixed. You have the Indy 500 fixed. You have the Tempest fixed. You have the vector games looking a lot better, a lot brighter. I think I saw online that like Major Havoc looks a lot better as well. So they did make some good changes for 1.1. They obviously didn't hit everything I've been finding, but let me look at my screen here for a second. 5, 7, 14. So they increased the dollar amount by like $14 by fixing what they fixed. So, we could technically update this if it were released this way, which it wasn't. But if it were released with firmware 1.1, I would go up to like $130 max. Um, they did take a couple of the big emulators out, which is interesting. Not that I really needed this to play N64 or Dreamcast or what was the other one, PlayStation. But just kind of interesting that they pulled those out of there and why they pulled them out. It'd be interesting to hear that story. All right, so I'm going to do something a little weird here. Where's my camera here? Okay, this isn't working. So my headset died, my battery charge died. All I can do is talk through this camera now, which I don't have my camera active on my other screen. So this is where we're going to call it. Good Grief would be interested why they pulled those emulators as well. Yeah, I think that's going to make a good story someday when we find the answer to that out. If maybe they had some stuff in there that they weren't supposed to release with the system. Good review. Thank you. Thank you. I know I talk a lot and I ramble on, but I just kind of wanted to not give the 5-minute overview. It's kind of fun to come across the problems and actually give examples of the problems instead of just talking about it. One other big thing I did notice, when you're playing in emulation and you're playing in an arcade game that is a vertical screen like Pac-Man, Ms. Pac-Man, Galaga, Cubert, Frogger, something like that. This Gamestation Go will stretch the screen on those. I did see from another reviewer online how to temporarily fix that. You can actually boot up the built-in Pac-Man arcade game on here, get that to play, turn off your unit, just do a hard crash on it, just turn it off, and when you boot it back up, you can go back into your MAME emulator and all of your games that have vertical screens will play normal. It's kind of a weird little fix. And then when you want to go back, you reboot it one more time, go into the like Atari 2600 and just kick off a 4x3 game like 3D tic-tac-toe or something. And while that game is playing, then you just force the power off again, and that resets the video mode. So you can kind of toggle it back and forth, but there's a few steps involved. It's kind of interesting, but it does allow you to get your vertical games to play in the correct aspect ratio for arcade games, which a lot of people do appreciate. A lot of people don't like the stretched out version. So I did quickly test that before the stream, and I forgot to mention it in the stream here tonight. But that is still an issue. You can still go to Pac-Man and kill it and do the trick and bring it back. But it's interesting that you have to do it. So, all right, that all being said, good grief, I appreciate you hanging out here tonight. If anyone else is hanging out, I appreciate you lurking and checking out the good stuff. We'll upload this video to YouTube in a couple days. I think I'm one video behind on YouTube, so I got to get that out there yet, to show off the side loading stuff. So it's hard because we did this all in a couple days, and then they threw that whole curveball at us with releasing the firmware. So I guess now it's a 4-part series instead of a 3-part series. But here's to hoping that MyArcade keeps up with the firmware updates. I don't know if I can send them a link to my video, or if they'd even be interested in watching it. But it'd be nice to share the findings with them, especially from this video, of the things that we're still testing out and still hoping to get fixed in the future. So, yep, no problem. GG's. We'll see you on the next stream. We're streaming every Tuesday night, Thursday night, and Sunday morning. Check the schedule on Twitch for that. As far as the reviews and talking videos like this, where we discuss products and games, we'll be uploading a copy of that to YouTube as well. You can find us over there at OSGTTV, which is always kind of fun having a Twitch name over on YouTube. All right, have a good night, everyone. I'm out of here. We'll talk to you real soon.